Welcome to the Water the Bamboo podcast, where we dive into all kinds of topics related to bamboo farming. Welcome, bamboo farmers. I hope your watering is going well. Today's topic, I think, can really help you stay positive as you water. Today's topic is about the Negaholic. You know what a Negaholic is, right? They complain about everything. They say, wow, the hot tub's too hot. They just complain about all kinds of things that are obvious. They complain about the hole in the donut. And so we all know negaholics, but I think we also have a negaholic in us. So part of this being negative is really challenging for us as a society and as humans. One of the things that we know, the research suggests that negative things in our lives go in our long-term memory, whereas good things go in our short-term memory. So in one moment, all kinds of positive things can happen. But if your brain gets locked into a negative thing, it'll only focus on that. So today's podcast is about how do we overcome our negaholic, the negaholics around us, and what should we do about these things? I think it's an important thing to sort of look at as we continue to water our bamboo. Well, the first thing we have to do is understand negativity. And I think it's important to understand negativity so we can define it, because I think once you define it, you can confine it. And so we know the negativity in our lives and the worry doesn't really help us do our jobs. The negativity on the bamboo farm doesn't help the bamboo grow. And if worry actually worked, there would be no problems. So we need to actually kind of define our negativity. So for you, how does it come up? And a lot of it's just our internal dialogue. Like in a situation, we can sort of think about, well, I'm not pretty enough, not tall enough, I'm not whatever. So those sort of personal attacks, or I didn't do that right, I messed this up, whatever those conversations are going in your head. What's interesting about those conversations is those conversations can be defined and interrupted, like even questioned, like, is this really true, what I'm saying? And really define it so I can deal with it. It's not about ignoring the negativity that's going on. It's about actually defining it so I can actually deal with that, so I can confine it, so I can actually come up with a strategy around it, and whatever that strategy may be. So some of the negative conversations people have internally, I believe, are a force of habit. It's just a habit. We just do it. You know, I can't sing. I don't remember names. It's just a habit. That's all it is. And so what I say is interrupt that habit if you want to change. And so for me, I notice that when I have negative thinking, I personally pretend it's background noise, like it's just background noise. I kind of don't listen to it. I know it's there, but I just don't dwell on it or pay a lot of attention to it. That's one strategy. But I am aware that it's there. If it's really strong, then I have to sit and reflect on that. I have to think about that. And so how can I interrupt that pattern is one question I would ask myself. And understand that negativity is a survival instinct. Our brains aren't designed to help us thrive. They actually help us survive. And oddly enough, none of us survive. But I think we can change and really think about that survival instinct, whether it's really helpful or not. It causes that fight, flight, or freeze within us. And a lot of the situations we get in aren't life-threatening. It's just our brain, you know, the backfiring car, you know, nothing's going to happen. Or the rustling in the bushes is not a tiger, it's probably a bunny or a deer. But I think a lot of times the consequences of not like turning around, see if it's a bunny or deer, could be dire to the brain, right? So those things are really true. So we have to not ignore that survival instinct in us. You know, a rushing bull, get out of the way. You know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't recognize that. But a lot of times this survival instinct actually sabotages our relationships, it sabotages our work. Now, one of the things that I think is important to do is just to recognize how these things go into your long-term memory and then interrupt that pattern. And some of us honestly need to, maybe it's counseling or doing something like that, definitely do that. But are there ways to sort of deal with sort of the regular mundane sort of negative things that come up? And I believe there are, but that negaholic within us is natural. So don't be too upset about it, but just be able to deal with it. What I want to really have you think about, though, is how the negaholic is affecting you. I think it's a drain on relationships, finances, all kinds of things. So if it's really a drain on you, this negaholic in you, I think it's really important to address it. If it's not affecting you, then fine. But if it's having an impact on your relationships, how you work, what you do, your confidence, I think it's important to sort of think about, how do I address the negaholic in me? And for me, I noticed that one of the things, you have these two voices going in your head, one screaming and scared, oh, they're not going to like me, what I'm going to do, whatever. True, it's there. And what I do is I ignore that voice, but I listen to the quiet voice, the loving, kind voice. I listen to that one. That's the one I personally follow. Now, I didn't always do this, but I think over time, what I realized is there's these two things, competing things going on in my brain. And what's the best action to take? The best action to take is to listen to that positive voice, the one where I'm in my heart, where I can really help somebody or even help myself, instead of the scared, afraid voice. And so language is important. And most of our language and most of our conversations are with ourselves. Having a chance to look at my conversations with myself has really, really helped me sort of slow down a little bit and go, is that really true? Ask that question. Is that really true? Is that negative voice really, is that a true voice? Is that, just kind of play around with it, even question it. I think that's an important skill as you go forward in your life, as you water your bamboo. Because there are a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, they will destroy your bamboo. And so how do we address those things? Fear requires courage, obviously. Uncertainty requires a game plan, and doubt is created by that negative language. So thinking about my own language, how I use my language, can help me and can help you. So I'm going to give you 5 things here to really address the negaholic within you or the negative things around you. One of the first things you have to do is be aware of it. Awareness is important. A lot of times I think people get really busy in their lives, and then one of the reasons they get really busy in their lives is they don't like that voice in their head. They just sort of start doing all these activities instead of really addressing the negative things that are going on in their lives. So awareness is important. Awareness of its effect on you is important. Awareness that you have it, just that. So sort of really just sort of thinking about it. Do I have this negative voice going on? And if the answer is yes to that, then I think it's just important to sort of slow down a little bit and see if we can sort of address that negative voice in us. The second thing I think is so important to do is to question our negaholic. Question it. I always ask my negaholic, do you have evidence of that? Is that really true? I actually try to hit the reset button on my negaholic, really kind of dive into it. Is that really true? They're not going to like this podcast, for instance. Maybe my negative voice would say, no one's going to want to talk about this. Why are you being a speaker? Why are you, all those questions that may come up with the negaholic. I always just question. I go, well, how do you know? Like, what evidence do you have this is not helpful? What have I seen in my life in terms of my own experiences that gives me pause to my negaholic? I just keep questioning the negative voice in your head. Some people I know say just some of the strangest things to themselves. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not tall enough. And it's really interesting about that language, just being aware of that, but also notice that we should question it. Question it. Don't believe everything that voice says. That's really the bottom line here. Don't believe every single thing that voice says. The third step is really important. I've used this one quite a bit, and I think that is to use affirmations. So you take a negative thought, and I actually write an affirmation just the opposite of that. One of the affirmations I use, I'm happy to share, is I'm highly pleasing to myself in the presence of others. I'm highly pleasing to myself in the presence of others. It sounds odd, but at the same time, in social situations when I was a kid, I was so uncomfortable. But now I've said that thing for years. I'm highly pleasing to myself in the presence of others. It's helped me so much. Just even when I go into a meeting, I've said that I'm highly pleasing in the presence of others. And it's a very interesting statement to say, because just having that affirmation, that the right language that battles the negative thing you might have in your life is important. So I have a whole list of affirmations that sort of, if I have a negative thought, I just have an affirmation that can sort of interrupt that negative thought. What's beautiful about the human brain is it cannot have 2 opposing thoughts at once. It just doesn't happen very, I guess geniuses can, but this idea of having one, that negative thought and that positive thought, but really honing in and having that as a habit. I'm highly pleasing to myself in the presence of others. That having that as a habit is really strong. It helps me, and it has in so many different ways. So whatever that is for you, come up with an affirmation that might be the opposite of that. In the book, Water the Bamboo, I talk about how to create affirmations. So it's really important to sort of dive into that. You can find all kinds of ways to to do this for yourself. Another thing I think is really important is I think you should savor the good, even the small good. The bamboo shoot that grows, which should be celebrated, not the one that doesn't. So what I would say is that when good things happen in your life, I really think you should take time and savor them. The difference between dining and eating, I always say, is not the food. Actually, it's your approach to the food. Dining requires me to savor it, like slow down a little bit, appreciate it. And when things bad happen, I think it's real important to sort of get the lessons from those things, but back away. Really generalize about those. But good things, really focus on them. Really make them a part of your conversations with yourself and with those around you. Focusing on the good can really help that negativity go away, actually, because you're looking at the positives in the situations. Negative things happen. I think it's really important to gather the lessons, the lessons you learned from that, so we don't repeat those patterns, but we need to savor the good, celebrate the good. That can help a bit. And number 5, I think it's really important to sort of acknowledge negaholics that are around you, but avoid them. I would say if you can't avoid a negaholic, negative people in your life, one of the things you want to be sure not to do is open your heart and your mind up to them. You can be with them, but not with them. But people that are putting you down, people that put others down, we need to figure out ways to avoid those. I think it's important to think about my bamboo circle and my bamboo circle. And a bamboo circle is so important. The people that are around you that uplift you, keep them close. Keep them very, very close. Those who put you down and push you down and are always negative, figure out a way to spend a limited amount of time with them, and also do not open your heart up to them and your mind up to them. This 5th one is so critical. You've heard that saying, we become who we hang out with. I believe you become who you hang out with, what you read, and what you eat. You can't consume negativity and just, be fine. I think it's real important to hang out with uplifting people. Have your bamboo circle be tight and uplifting, that have you in a positive frame of mind. That can help all that negativity in so many ways. I believe negativity is a habit, but like all habits, a negativity habit can be broken. If you follow those steps I talked about, about being more aware and sort of watching our language and doing those things that we talked about here, it can help you change that habit into one that's more positive. And I'm not talking about pegging out the positivity meter. I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I want you to do is to define the negativity so you can actually deal with it, so you can learn the lessons from it, so you can be actually more positive in your life. Thank you so much for listening to this Water the Bamboo podcast. I'm Greg Bell signing off and hoping to hear from you again. If you think others could use this, please forward it to them and be sure to subscribe. It helps the channel, obviously. But thank you so much for watering your bamboo.